World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Good afternoon. Tony Rogers here, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well with everyone. I know that I love hot, warm weather. So even though it's muggy and all of that, I'd rather for it to be 90 than 9. So I'm not complaining. Plus, in a couple of weeks, seems like the way time is flying, we're going to be talking about how cold it is. And based on climate change, it can be a couple of weeks. You never know. It might snow in August, the way things are going. But nevertheless, from a positive light, I hope everyone is well. And today I have a guest, a young man who was on in the studio, in the WCR studio. Uh, it was an interview. Wow, I'm. It's been a few years as part of a group called Impact, which two good friends, Jamal Joseph and Rosa Rivers, were the architects of this uh, group of young people who did all kinds of wonderful performances, singing, poetry, stand up, and they had workshops like a boot camp. You know, Jamal used to be in the Panthers, so he used to create some boot camp stuff for them to kind of begin to understand what it's like to have discipline and intellect. Um, and this young man has grown from that, not from that, because you always are going to be a part of your foundation, but has done so many different things. He has a one-man show that's making a lot of noise in many different areas, and he's going to do that again pretty soon, which is part of the conversation. But he is the founder and executive director of the Harlem Bomb Shelter, and that's I guess you could almost say it's kind of like a spinoff of what's happening with Impact to a certain degree. But I'd like for you to give a warm welcome to Luther, and I'm trying to get, is it Anubis? Is it
Anubis.
Anubis? Huh?
Yes. Anubis.
Anubis.
Hmm.
Okay. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing quite well, brother. How you doing?
Hey, seeing you, when I see you, and I'm so proud of you guys. To see people develop now that you're not, you, you were just telling me. I think you have a young one getting ready to go into high school, so
Yes.
somebody's getting old. I don't know who that is,
Yes.
but I knew you when you didn't have any grade. That's
Listen, I got two kids, and I started with two gray hairs, and then as they grew, so did the grays.
But one of the other things that has grown, though, and this is what we want to talk about, is your talent, and your ability to use the spoken word. And I guess I can say a lot of the stuff that you developed in Impact, because Impact, I'm sure, had a great deal of influence in some of the directions that you're going into now. So why don't, since some people may not be familiar, they may live on the moon and not know about Impact, but first let's talk a little bit about your relationship to Impact and how that uh, created where we're going now as relates to the bomb shelter and some of your new projects that you're dealing with.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's an Impact Laboratory Theater, which absolutely foundational for most of the work that I do. Is a youth and leadership arts training company, taking young kids in middle school and high school and utilizing the creative arts, acting, singing, dancing, rapping, poetry, as a medium for communicating, their own thoughts as well as creating social change. So I was able to aspect of it, where you're not just learning the arts, but you're also learning what are you doing with what you're saying. What are the actions that are matching up with your walk? If there's a thing that's bothering you in the community, use the arts to talk about it. And then is there anything that you can do to make some change about it? And then as I grew up in that organization, I became an instructor very quickly. And then as I, years in, I joined Impact when I was in like '99, and by 2011, I started like just having these thoughts about, what's next. Impact is a youth group, so it ends at 18. So what are the things that I can be creating? And the other thing about it is the two of the founders are monumental mentors of mine. Jamal Joseph, who was a Black Panther, part of Panther 21. He has his book Panther Baby. And you have Vosa Rivers, who is a Harlem cultural impresario who brought Safina from South Africa to America and Broadway. So, growing up under them, you say, like, what is my impact on the world? And at 25, I said, I am not doing much. And then a friend of mine's introduced me to an open mic in Harlem, and I said, "When's the next one?" And they said, "No, there is no next one. It's just a one-shot event." And I said, "That's it." So taking my education from Impact of seeing an issue and being inspired to do something with it, particularly in the arts, that's when I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do my own thing." There's a need, there's a gap, and why wait for someone else to fill it, and when I can figure it out myself? And Vosa Rivers helped me start that.
Well, tell us a little bit about the focus. I know before you do that, though, I know what always impressed me when talking to Jamal and Voza about impact is that they wanted to find a way to allow for young people, especially some people who were having troubles, whether it was drugs or parent issues or whatever, to express themselves in a more creative way. And some of still to this day, some of the lyrics and songs and spoken word is really them kind of like a lot. It's like a therapy in a sense, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
that resonates because what they're saying is what a lot of young people are experiencing.
Yes.
And now, based on all of this stuff that's going on, that's why I think where you are now, Luther, with the Harlem Bomb Shelter is extremely important.
Yes.
you know, to be able to talk to the powers that be stole rap, and turned it into a weaponized it. So what you're doing is extremely important.
I appreciate that. And one of my most resonating for me experiences with understanding the power of poetry and the platform that I've gotten to navigate is during on July 20th in 2020. It was a complicated time. We were in the middle of COVID. People were stuck in their house. We were approaching or temporarily got like a, 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 um, a time that we had to be inside. I can't remember the
Yeah,
word for that.
9 o'clock.
Curfew. Curfew. We had curfew for a little bit because everyone was out in the streets protesting police brutality, particularly in response to George Floyd's murder. And so I said, let's do a protest in poetry. And we were on 125th Street, and it was more poetry than protest, but it was more for us, but also onlookers and people passing by, and the audience grew from 10 people to about 30 people in front of the Apollo. It was boarded up. Well, the store next to it was boarded up at the time because no stores were open, and we got to just be out there, and people got to do their poetry and express themselves, and they got to get out. That was a big thing, right? But they got to really use the power of their words to talk about the things that bother them. One of the most memorable stories was a young lady. Her name is Leah. She's a friend of mine. We didn't know each other at the time, and she got to talk about how her father died of COVID, and her pain with how the political powers that be, mishandled the situations and how that led to. So she got to really express that. And I didn't even know her at the time. We know each other now, but
Right.
it became a space where people could just get stuff off their chest, but also then find like-minded people and figure out, well, I'm not by myself. And even if I feel like I can't do anything by myself, now that I know I'm not by myself, maybe we can connect with other people and actually, do some things.
And as you mentioned, this whole idea of COVID, there's a conference, the Urban uh, Health Conference that will take place
Yes.
not too far from now, around the 25th.
Yes.
One of the components is the whole issue of mental health, especially with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing some studies, and there was a 60% rise in suicide for teenagers after COVID, especially black and brown.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be, and one of the reasons why not having really people that they can trust to talk to and to be able to experience, and you remind me of that when you were saying people will realize when they hear what you're doing that they're not by themselves. This is not, it's not just you. A lot of people are going through similar things, and that's really important. Tell us a little bit about how people can get involved and some of the things that you have that's coming up. so that people
Yeah,
can.
sure, absolutely. So Harlem Bomb Shelter, we are primarily produce an open mic, but we've grown to be so much more than that. But our open mic happens every fourth Thursday, except November. Uh, the fourth Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we always change the date in November. But other than November, it's every fourth Thursday, and people can easily, check out our website at theharlembombshelter.com or our Instagram page. We have a new one, so it's a little empty right now. We're rebuilding, and that's Harlem Bomb Shelter on Instagram. But the easiest way to reach and follow us or find out what's going on is just to send us an email at theharlembombshelter@gmail.com. So like I said, we have our open mics, which is primarily for adults 18 and up. Every month or every other month, it depends. We have an event at Lucille's called Poetry and Soul, which we do in collaboration with Jazzmobile, and Jazzmobile is celebrating 60 years. So
Mhm.
our next one is going to be in September. We did one together in April because April is actually both April is both National Poetry Month and Jazz Appreciation Month. So we did a collaboration event.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then in June we just did one, which was because June is Black Music Month. We don't really have a theme for the next one, but September we're doing it again. So combining jazz and poetry. We have workshops that we do online. We're working on getting our workshops back in person, but we do workshops online. So you can reach out to us on Instagram in terms of those for now. But yeah, just checking in on the webpage. But Instagram is usually more updated because I actually run our webpage. I get a little busy, so it's a little
Which,
it's a little
which is the other talent you have as far as graphics? I know that
yes.
much of the stuff that comes out of the chamber through Harlem Week and all of those things has your footprint on it. So
Yeah,
besides being an artist in performing artist, you're also a graphic artist. How did that come about?
What's funny is uh me doing graphics seriously came through me working in politics, which is a whole nother weird story. Like, how did that happen? But connecting the dots. Like I said, I grew up in Impact, where you see something you can do, you do it. And around our 5th-year anniversary of Harlem Bomb Shelter, we had created a space where people could talk about their issues, and I felt like that wasn't enough. Right? I'm sitting here hearing people's issues, but am I doing anything to actually help them? And my team was like, no, that's important, and it is important. But then I found out about a young man who was running for state senate, and he lived on the same block in Harlem that I worked from, right? And that was Brian Benjamin. So I said, you know what? Let me get poets and young people together, and let's actually support someone from our community. And by that time, I had such I suppose, a movement of millennials and getting them active, that he gave me a job when he won, so that I got to do work connecting the arts and young adults and government and civic engagement. And while there, I needed something else to actually do. So I started helping with some of the flyers, and I kind of self-taught myself graphics so I could be more useful in that office, amongst other things that I was doing. And then I just got really proficient at that. And then when he left that office, I knew my particular mission was focused more Harlem based than what his mission was. So, I ended up at the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, utilizing those same skills that I developed. So it's kind of like this weird,
Well,
domino effect.
there's always a reason for all things,
Yes.
And even with your name, I know that there's a chemic reality in life.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm just learning, so sometimes the pronunciations get messed up, but I understand the depth of it as relates to uh, your name. And what made you select that name?
Yeah.
Your
So
relationship with Indonesia?
Anubis kind of came very accidentally, but timely. Um, in like 2009, I had started this rap group that it didn't go anywhere, but I started this rap group, and we did a recording, and I wrote this verse, and it says, "Who do you trust? I be Anubis," and I really just liked the name. I liked the idea, I liked the concept. That's what I wrote at the time. Um, Now, time had passed, and in 2019, after some years of creating space for other people, but I had not been taking my own artistry seriously. I've been taking myself as a producer, as a curator seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I said in 2019, after some life stuff had happened, and realizing I had some stories I needed to tell, I said I needed to kind of take myself seriously as an artist. And my brother, who had been seriously pursuing his rap career, he invited me to a studio session, and I brought back the line, I be Anubis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, that's it. And then I started thinking about it. I started doing some research. And as much as we recognize Anubis as, which, that's the more modernized name. My friends would correct me that the more original name would be Anpu. But
Mm-hmm.
um, Anubis is, we think of gods of death in terms of as a decider or a killer, and that's not at all what it is. Especially in Egypt, ancient Egypt, death is another part of life.
Another stage.
Right. And Anubis takes you on that journey. And that's what
Right.
I've been doing with my art for years at that point. I've been using my art to take people on their journey through that particular aspect of their life,
Mm-hmm.
in mentorship and guidance, not so much as a determiner, but as a guide and a guardian, and making sure that people's artistic life, and path is being helped and guided as they go and ascend. And then you have people who become big names in artistry and poetry in particular, who got to say they started their first feature was at the bomb shelter, right? So there's there's young people who I mentored in Impact who said, "Hey, I didn't finish the program, but I still utilize the stuff that you teach." So that's literally been my life path. Has been a guardian through people's particular aspects of their life, in their between phases.
Well, you have a show coming up, and I want you to talk about that. But I just had a question. Were you with Impact when they did the soundtrack for part of the soundtrack for they got the nomination for Academy Award?
Yes, I
Oh,
was actually in the movie. So Impact, for those who don't know, in 2007, we were featured in a film called August Rush, in which I'm in at least one, if not two scenes. The church scene where we sang an original song that we wrote called "Raise It Up," and and Impact got nominated for that song for Best Original Song to perform at the Oscars in 2008, which I got to perform as well. If you get to see footage, I have a mohawk at the Oscars. Yeah. So that was an
That was the talk.
amazing.
That was the talk of Harlem, boy. We got some Harlem people going to Hollywood.
Yes, yeah, it was quite an experience. Quite an experience.
But so tell us.
Now I'm trying to go to Broadway. That's segue.
Tell us about your one man show and what that's about, and what's your schedule for that?
Yes. So I have a one man show. It's called Broken Mirror. Broken Mirror, uh, the poetic mosaic of a broken mind, and it's pretty much a me telling a story, or telling several stories while in a therapy session,
Mm-hmm.
deal with my social anxieties. But the stories that I tell chronicle dad life, dating life, post divorce, just life as a black man, and the fears and things that entails, and also like dreams and goals, all wrapped up in 60 minutes and told in a combination of anecdotes and poetry.
Which that you just said a mouthful, brother. I don't know what that might be too deep for some of our baby boomers to say, "What did he say?"
Well,
But
in simple, it's I get to talk about the things that we deal with in the world, particularly as Black men, but as just people in general,
mhm,
in a way that we don't normally get to
talk
talk
about
about it, and I get to use a combination of drama and comedy and poetry to tell these stories.
which has been done for a long period of time. Whether it's poets or comedians, many have utilized that opportunity to allow for people to laugh to keep from crying, but
Yes,
that laughter comes from some real issues that sometimes we don't always want to talk about. But
yes,
but the whole concept of what you're doing, as I had mentioned before, is timely. I guess all things happen when they're supposed to be, but we're moving into some strange time, as you probably know, and and the younger you are, the stranger it may be because you have so much access to information. That we were talking before about uh, people being older than Google.
yes, yes.
I'm almost older than television. I remember, most people didn't have a television, and when they had it, it was black and white, and you have to have an antenna. And my dad used to have me at the baseball games when Willie Mays was playing. I had to stand by the antenna because then it used to work. So he says,
Yes.
let me see. He's up the bat. Just stand there.
Don't
So,
move.
don't move. And now, I mean, they're talking about putting stuff in your brain to allow for you to think quicker. So it's, I don't even, my daughter's around the age, she's just turned 21. And some of the things that we talk about amazes me,
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to where things were and where things are, but more frightening in some cases where things seem to be going. And relationships, stuff like that, has changed so dramatically, which is why I believe that with young people, uh, it's important to begin to have you and people like you because there's stuff that I can't, I would not be able to really explain in a way that it will be understood. It's almost like me trying to explain to a 10-year-old how my 8-track used to work and what's an 8-track, So it's important to begin to have that voice of individuals who are like-minded,
Mm-hmm.
but have developed an understanding as to how to infuse that knowledge of the past into the knowledge that's needed for the future. And
Absolutely.
and that's how I see what you're doing. And the spoken word component of it, um, that's that's always been the case. And some, you know, before we even came across the river, the I shouldn't say the river, the ocean. The spoken word was something that was always done. That was how we.
Yeah, griots were the lifeblood of our history, and proverbs and all those things. So that's in our blood. That's in the threads that we get to access. And I get to be honored to be one of the people who get to access those threads.
So tell us how one might be able to get tickets and the time schedule for uh, the next show. I think the next
Yes.
one's on the 25th or something, the 20th.
20th.
Uh-huh.
20th. So I have 5 shows coming up in July. And it's at the Producers Club, which is Midtown of 44th Street. July 20th at 2 p.m. and at 6 p.m. July 27th at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. and then July 28th at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Tickets are available at my website, theartistanubis.com/broken mirror, or really just go to theartistanubis.com, and then there's a button that says
Mm-hmm.
broken mirror. Um, and yeah, tickets are available on the two 6 p.m. shows. There will be a talk back afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
We did talk backs at the previous shows, and people really got to they really enjoyed doing that, particularly because the show has a lot of introspection and a lot of sharing of things that, one of my mottos as an artist myself is to tell the stories that make us feel alone, so we can all feel alone together.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's what tends to happen after the show, so we get to do a talk back on those two shows. But these are small theaters, so tickets are going really quickly, so I'm really encouraging anyone who's, you know interested at all to definitely hop on that. And my website again is theartistanubis.com, and there's tickets available there.
Right. I know. I googled Harlem Bomb uh, Shelter, and it took me to Eventbrite. I think we could get.
Yeah. So there's a Eventbrite, but everything in like from that page, everything is there. Also, the way I set up my webpage, you can also go to the harlembombshelter.com and get the same information. So
Right.
both things send you to the same place, because I'm kind of both things at the same time.
Yeah, you got that. You got the skills that go along, and
Listen, with mentors like filmmaker and writer Jamal Joseph, and then producer and cultural leader Boza Rivers, I'm constantly, and then sitting under Lloyd Rivers, Lloyd Williams in business. I'm kind of being poured in from all directions. If I'm not putting that back out, then I'm not good ground.
well, you do have some very strong people. I've had the chance to be with for a long period of time. Actually, Jamal was just a little younger than you when he was in the Panther Party, which is in Panther Baby,
Mm-hmm.
and that was an interesting time that we all had. And to be able to develop, we all have seen so many different things. Jamal, I've always been, impressed with him. He embarrasses me because he always takes time to say, my first job I got from Tony at Toro College. And I said, Jamal, you don't have to say that all the time. He says, no, brother, I want them, how he talks. No, brother, I
Mm-hmm.
want them to understand,
Yeah.
how that goes. But yeah, I mean, you have dealt with some people who, when we talk about the second Harlem Renaissance, and of course you're going to be a part of that, have really set the stage. What's your vision? Where would you like to be this time next year?
This time next year, I would like to be doing my art in Harlem Bomb Shelter full time. It has grown to a place. We have a mentorship program now, which is kind of like a smaller version of like Impact, for example, where we take 5 young people, and for the year we give them everything we've gotten in our past years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all these different projects could be so much bigger when I get to the place where I have the resources, where I can, focus on that. So that way we can really focus on the work that I kind of feel like I'm purposed to do. And then spend the rest of the time just doing my art. The show, I only planned on doing 2 shows, but it was so impactful um, that people requested that I do more. Um, so that means that there's so much in this show that maybe I need to be taking it on tour. I need to take it to Broadway. So being able to focus solely on my art, and then creating the space for other people, um, is as like my main things that I'm doing, and not having to subsidize it.
Right.
That is where I intend to be in a year. of course, I'm going to still be doing all the work and working with people. I work with, in addition to the chamber, I love working with Harlem Week, and I work with 100 Black Men. But being in a position where I'm able to give and focus on my art in that particular way, that's the goal, and
That's it.
I'm sitting under the right people. Daniel Beatty is one of my other friends and mentors, and we all know he's absolutely amazing. For those who don't know him, he's most known, I think, for Knock Knock on Def Poetry Jam, and we reconnected. So that's the plan, to be doing that work.
Well, you're in the right place at the right time. Give me the name of the location where you're going to be on the 20th again.
Yes. So the location is Producers Club in the Sonic Theater. That's on 44th Street between 9th and 8th Avenue. And that's on the 20th at 2 p.m., the 20th at 6 p.m., the 27th at 2 p.m., the 27th at 6 p.m., and the 28th at 5 p.m.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure that I quick and in a hurry, get some tickets.
And the last thing I want to add about that is each of those shows, I have one of my fellow poets opening for me, because I very much, when you get an opportunity, you share it with your friends. Yeah. And one of my mottos is goats travel in herds. If you're sitting in a place and you're the best goat there, then you're not in the wrong place, because goats travel in herds. You should be surrounded by other great people, so you guys can all move together.
Which is that's basically the way it should be. I have a question. We're moving. You had mentioned an interest in politics. We're moving in a time that's kind of strange. Matter of fact, I was thinking about doing some sort of an article, even though I write for the Harlem Community News, and my cousin only wants me to write about good news that people could use. But every chance I get, I like to allow for people to understand this whole issue of Project 2025. Even though I know that is not a new thing, but because it has been tried before. But that's a very interesting reading as relates to what certain people think about them and us, and if that happens, that's going to probably create a situation where some stuff that we're talking about now may be illegal.
Yes.
Because we talk about the spoken word, that has always been, I just had an interview with Ty Jones and about some of the stuff that they're doing with the classical theater, and his thought was, at that time the spoken word was talking about what the powers that be are doing to the common man, and they were seemed, looked upon like rap artists. Now they're glorified, but during the time that they were talking all of this stuff, they were catching a lot of hell, because they were talking about, in their view, what the truth is.
Yes.
And it's so interesting, especially with the classical theater in Harlem. They just started with Midsummer Night's Dream. When you hear brothers talk in that language of Shakespeare, or, the class, it sounds a little bit more familiar to me, because they're able to express themselves in a way. Sometimes you really have to voice. In acting, you're supposed to be able to allow for yourself to tell a story without necessarily opening your mouth. But it's just something that we have, it seems, that allows for us to generate that creativity and that excitement. And if you haven't seen that you might want to check that out. It's always interesting. They do a really good job of allowing for, similar to what you're doing, but allowing for younger people to experience the classics in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't been done. But I I wanted to make sure that people are aware of what you're doing, and I want to make sure that I encourage individuals, and be like me, be an old what is it, OG, and bring
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
OG, so, so you can see, so some of the things you might not be able to explain, you can relate to those types of things, but it's important, man. The work that you're doing is important because uh, it's real easy, no matter what your age is, to get lost out here.
Yeah.
Uh, the way things are going, the way fake media can be left or right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's one of those things where the truth sometimes uh, has to be told. And I commend you, Luther, for the things that I've seen you do, watch you, do stuff. Uh, I always try when we do the Harlem Community News. I always try to say, "Is Luther around?" Well, so when you told me that you wanted to do what you're doing full time, I said, "Well, I hope you still stick around and do
Well,
your
listen,
work."
I'm also with the Harlem Writers Guild now, and they've really been working me in terms of on call writing. So you
Wow,
know, oh yeah, yeah, I'm kind of everywhere now, right?
tell a
But
little bit
yeah,
about that. That's
I joined them about a year, almost a little over a year ago, maybe 2 years. But they're really developing me in that way. So no, I mean, listen, I'm always gonna be able to do 1,000 things. I was gonna be able to make my main thing be one thing. But if you call me for a writing, I'm gonna write. That's what I'll do. That's what I do. That's who I am. But I'll get to allow my focus to be the more artistic, and then support everything else
Have
as
you thought about writing a book or have
I did do two books. I self-published a poetry anthology. It's
uh-huh.
called My People Burn and Other Visions, which I am reprinting, so I will have copies at my show. And I wrote a book that I pitched it, but it didn't get selected. It's called hashtag Dad Life, where I kind of tell these anecdotes and poetic stories of notes I wrote about different things that happened during the first like 10 years of my fatherhood. So those are it so far. I'm going to do another poetry book after this show. But that's so far as I've gotten in terms of writing.
Well,
But
that's a lot further than a lot of people have done. Matter of fact, I'm feeling that we are just touching the iceberg of the stuff that you do. And what's important to me also is you don't wear this on your sleeve, as they say. That's the old saying. I mean, you know, you are who you are, and you don't, with all of the stuff, all of the things that you've done, all of the, you have that, you're humble, and that comes, I guess they say, from wisdom, who you are and the like. But I got a message. What are the ages of the youth poetry slams?
yeah, that's a good question. So that's another big thing that we have our youth poetry slam, which is going to be August 18th at Harlem Day. It's 6th grade through 12th grade.
Okay.
So you can email me. There's a link. I don't know if the link's on my webpage, but you can email me at the Harlem Bomb Shelter at gmail.com. But yes, that'll be on Sunday, August 18th. Ages or the grades are 6th grade through 12th grade.
Is that on the center stage by the Y or?
So it's going to be in the Y, but the winner. So the actual competition is going to be inside the Y,
Uh-huh.
in behind center stage. But the
Right.
winner will get to perform on the center stage, and then that's when the winner will also get their giant check and all that stuff. But they will also get to perform on center stage.
That's amazing. And do you ever do some things with Impact, when they do special events and stuff?
Not recently, and that's just only in as my organization has grown, it's just
Right.
become a lot. But we still, me and Beatrice, who runs Impact, we are constantly organizing amongst what we're doing. So we might end up being at the same places. Um, but with my load has become its own thing. It really had, but it was a good thing because I'm still working under Vosa, and I um, got to really grow a lot by doing stuff independently, so
Yeah.
that I'm more of a asset than an underling. So now I can bring stuff in, and everyone. So we're kind of working in tandem. The Impact will keep working with the young people up until 18, and I take them the rest after that. And
And
then
what
yeah.
what's the market, which is another your market? Who do you actually
So
focus on?
for primarily, we're young adults. I always say 18 to 38. But I always say primarily 18 to 30, 18 to 38. But that's just
18 to 38.
yeah. There's
Mm-hmm.
not a limit though. That's just our primary bracket. I mean, we've done SYP programs for a while, so we had 14-year-olds and we created things for them. We have the teen program. We have people significantly over 38 who come to the bomb shelter. So it's really open. But I always say 18 to 38, mostly because I created a space that's our main events
Mm-hmm.
are uncensored. That's one of my goals. I think there are places that need to be clean, but I also wanted to create a space that was uncensored. So I always feel more comfortable when people are 18 and up. But that's only our main open mic. The stuff we do, like our poetry and soul, that's open, family friendly. That's everybody. So I always like to have various things that can access different people.
Now, are you having auditions? How does that work as far as the youth poetry slam?
The youth poetry slam will there will be in July, and I have to lock in a date. But there will be a qualifying round where we take up to 20 people, and then
Mm-hmm.
because the final round will be up to 10 people on Harlem Day.
And how do
So
you qualify? Is that like you rapping it the rap battles or
well,
what?
no, well, kind of, but no. So way that at least the poetry slam that I come from, at least the way that we're doing this one. Let me talk about that. The way we're doing this one for the qualifier, we got up to 20 people. You do one poem. There will be 5 judges, um, and you drop the low score, you drop the high score, and whoever gets the top 10 scores amongst those will move up to the final round. And that one will have multiple rounds with different topics because Jasmine Bill is one of our partners. One of our rounds for the final is you have to do a poem that's related to jazz.
Mm,
Then because Harlem Week is one of our partners,
mm-hmm,
one of the rounds, the poems is related to whatever the theme is
mm-hmm.
for Harlem Week. So this one is celebrating the journey. So that's
Yeah.
kind of vague, but it lets people to do what they
Well,
want.
yeah, 50 years is a little hard to wrap your head around if you 18 to 30.
Listen, when Bomb Shelter turned 10 years, because we're going on 13 now. When we turned 10, I was like, I would have never imagined. So I can only imagine what the founders of Harlem Week are feeling, arriving at 50 years. But no, so you're not, the idea about prompts are like whatever comes to your mind, whatever's inspired. It's not like an essay. It's not like you saying like, you know, you had to write a poem where you're marking down. No, what comes to your mind? If I talk to you, what I actually like, celebrating a journey, whatever comes to your mind is right. So what I'm really looking at is how you do that, right? How well do you present, or what type of creative language devices you're utilizing, um, and those things, But also we want people to have fun, and I want to be able to show off to the community, the young people, because I started when I was 13, and I realized that I used to complain about a lot of things, but I realized that if I put my complaints into poetry, people would listen. So young people, and they are phenomenal. Like we don't listen to young people enough. We don't have enough platforms for that. So when they do that, I promise you, we are always blown away when they're given the opportunity to talk about the things that are on their minds.
Sounds like something that should be in the Board of Education.
Listen, that's the next plan. That's 2 years from now.
Yeah, well, Donna, we have these relationships. This is a good time to start bringing some of that stuff up. But Luther, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to allow for people to understand your important work. Matter of fact, I'm glad that you met Matt McCoy because, again, Matt and his sister Yada were pioneers in the spoken word stuff, and I believe, as he was saying, an announcement is going to come up about an anniversary for the hottest poets, which should be interesting. But I just want to thank you, brother. I'm always happy to see people develop in the way that you would like for the more than what you can think about. Because you know, there's when we was talking, I don't know how many years ago. All of this was never, you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
you know. But to be able to see it and to kind of sit back and watch the development allows for you to feel that maybe we all are doing something right in our network that we're in because of the people, the Vosas and the Jamals and all of those. It's all connected,
Yes.
and it's connected in a very powerful spiritual way. And all things happen for a reason. So
Hmm.
again, I got to get my tickets. I want to encourage everyone to make sure that you do that because it's just that support. And you can also support the Harlem Bomb Shelter online, and it's a 501c3. And now you're members of the Harlem Tourism Board, so
Yes.
we have to make sure that I connect you to the web designer who sometimes needs help because everybody's trying to talk to him. But I want to make sure that he puts up, your information so that we can promote that.
Yes.
And
Yes. Of course.
and
Thank
you,
you,
and
thank you for the space and the time. Appreciate it.
huh?
I said thank you for the space and time. I appreciate it.
Oh, I mean, it's just a way of thanking you. Sometimes it's hard for many people to receive. We're coming from a group of people who are used to giving, and sometimes uh, have to learn how to receive a little bit more. I know that I'm speaking about myself. I there's some people talking about doing a documentary about me, and it's very hard for me to do that, because I'm used to doing stuff for other people,
Mm.
and but thank you, brother. I appreciate your work. Give us the website one more time and where people can get tickets for your next show.
Yes. So you can either you can go to right here, the harlembombshelter.com. From there you can get to is a link that says a button that says Broken Mirror, and you can get all the tickets and ticket info and links to promo videos and things of that nature, and apparel because we have a merch. We have
Yeah, I
apparel.
did see that. Hey,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yeah. One of our slogans from the show is "This is not the end," and that's the thing I like to remind people. No matter where you are, right? This is not the end. So although this stream is about to end, this is not the end. We are out getting ready to go do more work.
That's right. And we're making copies of it and sending it around anyway, so it'll go on forever. Thank you, my friend. You
Thank
take care
you.
of yourself, and see you soon.
Yes.
Trying to figure out why. Well, I'd like to thank you for, and I'm not sure why. I'd like to thank you for taking some time to be able to watch the show today. Uh, Please, Harlem Bomb Shelter. Uh, young people are doing a lot of good work, necessary work. And again, I'd like to again thank the Soul City team, Matt and Jasmine and all, for providing the opportunity to allow for me to bring people that sometimes you don't always see, but are doing some really good work, and especially people like Luther. So that's pretty much it for today. But we shall return, and I hope that you have a good rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Urbanology.